Hey everyone, I'm Rain, and this is Tarot for the Skeptical Mystic. And today we're just going to do an open-ended card draw. We're going to see sort of what comes out, who it's speaking to, and hopefully, if it's you, you get something useful out of this message, this reading, whatever is coming your way, has something that you can kind of sink your teeth into. So the way I do it is we're going to do sort of a four-tier spread: past, present, future, and then crux, which is going to be what everything kind of hinges around. So we're going to get a look at the past, how we got to the point where we're at, where you're clicking on this video and saying, I need some help, man. And what we're going to do here, I have 6 decks in front of me. I've got a 6-sided die. I've got a camera that's going to show you everything. And so our first card is going to come from our number 2 deck, which is Rainbow Brain Skull. Rainbow Brain Skull. So this can be, Rainbow Brain Skull is very sort of lighthearted, but about some pretty dark things at times. So it's always interesting to see what you're going to get. Is it going to be like hopeful and optimistic, or like, oh yeah, everything's fucked, but let's laugh about it. But it almost always seems to be one of those two. So our past is number 71. Water the things you care about. It ain't always going to be dirt. Water the things you care about. It ain't always going to be dirt. We'll read what the book says here. It's the second last card in the deck. Everything big was once a tiny version of itself. The universe itself was once the size of a sesame seed. Trust that if you consistently show up and make the effort, your dreams will come to fruition. So this, to me, is reading, if we're looking at our past, either about something that we kind of maybe failed to water, that has not yet grown into what it's supposed to be. But I think more likely we're looking at something that we have been putting attention to, that we have been watering, right? In the hopes that something will grow out of it. Whether or not it has, it remains to be seen. But I'm going to kind of work under the assumption, if you're at a point where you're looking for readings on YouTube to help you sort something out, maybe you've put water into the soil, right? You've been trying to cultivate, you've been trying to grow something, and it hasn't bloomed yet. It hasn't blossomed. It hasn't come to fruition. And that can be a really stressful and anxiety-inducing experience, especially if you've put a lot of eggs in this particular basket, right? And this isn't necessarily just like a business venture or an investment. Like, we invest in a lot of different ways in people, right? We invest in sort of ideals and ideas about what the world around us could and should look like, and how we're going to spend our energy making the world look a little bit more like that. And so along the path of that, along the path of cultivating and growing something into more, there's going to be times where it doesn't feel like it's working, where you put water on the seed and you don't notice the change. And the reality is, a lot of things, right, including most plants, take time to grow. They take time to develop. They test our patience, right? And they force us to be attentive to them for changes in conditions in the soil, and how much water they're getting, how much light they're getting, how much light they need. Are you over or under watering, over or under lighting them, all this sort of stuff. And so it feels to me like, if this is the card that's describing our past, we've been trying to put in that work. We've been trying to grow something that starts off quite small or unassuming, and grow it and develop it into something larger. And I think that's maybe how we get to our present, right? Where we're maybe feeling some anxiety, or conversely, it could be, what's the next step? How do I get it to grow further? Like, is there a piece I'm missing? So our present card is going to come from number 1 here. That's our Steampunk Tarot. This one, I can't remember the last time I gave it a really good shuffle. It's probably been a week or so, and I know I've done readings with my wife since then, so I want to make sure that it's good and mixed up, and I'm not just pulling the same cards every damn time. Oh wow, this looks suspiciously like a reading that I did a week ago with my wife. How about that? The Brain Skull did not come out, I think, at any point. Oh, Queen of Swords. she's come up a lot in I have 3 different tarot decks, and she's come up a lot in my readings lately from a bunch of different decks. So it looks to me like you've been growing this thing, you've been building this thing, and now you're reaching like a really solid point, right? You're reaching a point where you know your shit, and you're taking care of business, and that's a really good feeling to have. That's a really good place to feel like you're in. It's not a feeling that we get to have very often in life, right? This feeling of competence, of being so on our shit that we can be really sort of like direct and straightforward about what we're doing and how we want to do it and how we want things done and all this sort of stuff, right? Like the Queen of Swords is no nonsense. She's not fucking around, but she's also not like, brandishing the sword, threatening to cut down anyone who stands in her way. It's more of a reminder, right? She carries it around in case she needs it, but she doesn't need it very often. People know the sword is sharp. They know she's sharp enough to use it, right? So if you're the Queen of Swords right now, you're reaching the point where these things are starting to develop into fruition, right? They are the things that you've put into the soil are now starting to bear fruit. And that's a really positive feeling. It's a really confidence building feeling, right? Of like, I made this, I built this, I created this, and now here it is. Look at it, right? And it's mine, right? There's a certain amount of like queen shit in the Queen of Swords of like, yeah, this shit is mine. So if that's you in the present, like, cool, welcome to the video. This feels like the sort of thing where, you're maybe looking for what is going to come next, right? Or how you can turn this energy that you're feeling right now into something further, right? Maybe it's you've grown something and you want to grow it further, or you want to figure out how to use it. You want to make it more rich, more meaningful. If it's a relationship, if it's a work opportunity or something like that, right? Like, what's the next step for me? And that's going to be our future card. And that's going to be another rainbow brain skull. Interesting. A lot of juxtaposition. My wife and I like to sort of joke about the relationship between the different decks. And Brain Skull is definitely sort of like the mediator, the buffer between our Empyrean deck and this Steampunk Tarot, because they're both very sassy at times. So it's going to be a twofer. And so that's, it'll never be perfect, so I'll leave it blank and let the earth slowly consume me. And forever and wherever you will go, the choice is always yours to vibrate high or vibrate low. So let's give a look at these cards and the rundown from the book, and then, of course, our own sort of interpretation of what they're trying to say. For number 64 here, perfection is, by definition, unattainable. You can aim for perfect, but ultimately it is the imperfections that will make it unique. Make art without constantly criticizing it. After all, if you don't make stuff, there is no stuff, and we all love stuff. And then we have the outside world can be unpredictable, but how you react to a situation is always your choice. This is what true freedom is. So it seems to me like you're coming to a crossroads, and maybe this is something that is going to test you based on your own sort of like internal sense of what is right and wrong, your own internal sense of what you think the next step should be, and a conflict potentially between that and external forces. Think about every band you've ever loved who's had like a really killer debut record, right? I say record because I'm old. But somebody, some musician comes onto the scene with something really fresh, really unique, really innovative, right? And people want more of that. People want more of this person's sound, their innovation, their techniques, whatever it is. But also there are people who want to manipulate that. They want to leverage that. They want to take it and make money off of it, right? And commodify it. And oftentimes an artist will want to go in a different direction. Or they'll want to maybe not come out with more music, or they catch the sophomore slump, right? They hit writer's block, and their second album sort of suffers for it, and it's a test of whether they're going to have longevity as musicians. And a lot of that is because all these external pressures, right, versus internal pressures, internal urgings. And at the end of the day, you have the choice of how you want to move forward with this thing. Maybe it's a relationship that you're in that that you're having conflicted feelings about, and maybe other people are saying, oh no, you shouldn't stay with this person, right? Or you're saying, but could I do better than this person? Which is, it's a shitty thing to think about, but it's something that people do think about. Could I be doing better, right? Especially if you're young. You're like, I could do better than this, or how is this going to affect other sort of like relationships that I have with my friends or my family or whatever, right? There's all of these conflicting things. And when it comes down to it, is this idea that like perfect is the enemy of the good, and that you have the choice. No matter where you are, no matter how much pressure is being put on you, right? No one has a gun to your head saying you must do it this way. If you think about, an artist who, had a great debut, right? Whether it was a visual artist or a musician or something like that, right? And now all of this pressure starts to come on. Now all of these expectations show up. Now you have fans that you need to please, right? Now maybe you have, somebody from a record label, some studio executive telling you, oh, you shouldn't do it this way. No, you shouldn't do it that way. And deep in your heart of hearts what you want to do and how you want to do it, right? And all of the people in the universe might be saying, do it this way, do it this way, do it this way. But if you have the choice to say, I'm not going to do that, I'm going to do it this way. This is what I've been building. This is what I've been growing. And I'm on my Queen of Swords shit. And I'm going to do it the way that I want to do it. And it's not going to be perfect. It's not going to please everyone. It's not going to be everything everyone ever wanted, right? But it's going to be the right thing for me. The thing that springs to my mind is Radiohead, because they're my favorite band. And after the smash hit OK Computer was released in the 90s, that they had a lot of this kind of pressure, right? They produced this masterpiece, this sort of like post-grunge rock masterpiece that started to blend some very experimental and electronic elements into it, right? But it's this incredible record. And their follow-up, Kid A, sounds nothing like it. It's such a massive departure from their earlier music that you wouldn't even think it was the same band. And it was a huge risk for them. And a lot of people didn't like it. A lot of people at the time when it released were like, this is not that. This is not what I got into this band for, right? I got into this band for OK Computer, and now I'm getting whatever the fuck this is. Looking back, and even, in its time, there were a lot of people who rightly went, holy shit, this is revolutionary. It's also a masterpiece. It's going to change the scope of music forever, which it did. The first sort of like really mainstream musicians to incorporate synthesizers and drum machines in the way that they did, which you hear all over the place now. Right? They had what they wanted to do, and there was an immense amount of pressure for them to do exactly the opposite of the thing that they wound up doing, right? But they were building something, and they were on their Queen of Swords shit. And they stuck with what they wanted to do, right? They held on to their, integrity as musicians or whatever it is, and created something that is, a masterpiece. So this is, I think, telling you to follow down the same path, right? Know what you want to do. Don't worry about whether it's going to be perfect. Don't worry about whether everyone's going to like it. Don't worry about all of that shit, because you, at the end of the day, get to choose your path. You get to choose what's right for you. And if you've been growing this thing for so long, if you've been building this thing up with your vision in your way for so long, now that it's successful, why are you going to change it? Right? Why are you going to change not what you're doing, but how you're doing it? That's what got you here in the first place, right? Your intuition, your instincts, your mind telling you this is the way to go. This is how I'm going to be successful. And maybe it is, a relationship where it's that person who is really, really good for you. And maybe they're not perfect. Maybe they're not the exact perfect person of your dreams forever that you imagined when you were 12 or whatever, right? But they're excellent for you. And you are choosing them. You're choosing this relationship because it's right for you. Who cares what, somebody else might think? It's not their relationship. right? It's your relationship. It's changing a career path or staying with a career path, more likely, right? Where you are saying, no, this is the way that I want to do it. Could I make more money doing something else? Maybe. Could I, get more prestige or notoriety or whatever it is, switching to a different company or a different career? Possibly. But this is what I feel is right for me. And you always have that choice. That's what this card is saying. Through all of this, you've been making choices. You've been making choices leading you to the point where you have this real decision to make about what path you're going to take. And that's yours, no one else's. So ignore everyone else. That's going to bring us to our crux card, which is maybe going to give us a little bit of insight about how to do that, right? How to slip off that pressure, or how to find what that right choice is. Maybe the thing that's brought you here is you're at this Queen of Swords and now you're conflicted about what the right choice is, and it's causing you to have this, right? That's another interpretation. This crux card is going to kind of fill us in a little bit on what all of this hinges around. So that is going to be a number 5, which is our Talisman Oracle deck. Hello. It is a really intricate and cool deck. For being like glossy black, it's not as edgy as you think, which I think is really cool. And this is good fortune. Good fortune. Interesting. It's sort of what it says on the tin. In ancient Egypt, the scarab beetle was a symbol of good fortune, rebirth, and protection from jealousy. The card indicates prosperity and long-term success. It could also mean a miracle or a blessing. This is not a passive fortune. Now is the time to formulate new ideas about the path you want to follow. Decide what you're interested in and take action, because luck is on your side. This card can ease the hard work that needs to be done to get to the finish line, but it's up to you to see yourself through. You will resurrect your power when you encounter obstacles on your way, but you need to stay focused on your goals. Don't forget to celebrate your success. So couldn't really be much clearer than that. I think this is telling you, what the right path is, right? You knew when you planted this seed in the ground, what you wanted it to grow into, right? And it's starting to grow. It's starting now here in the present. It's grown, it's developed. And what next? What am I going to do with it? Well, what did you plant it for? What was the purpose of this action in the first place? That's what you need to come back to. If that's what you're missing, right? If that's what you're forgetting, if that's what all these pressures are sort of saying, and what's it for? What does it do? How are you going to use it? You knew that already. So own that shit that you're in right now and say, this is what I want. This is how I'm doing it. This is the way I always intended to do it, right? And follow through this idea, this feeling, this relationship, this whatever it is, to the end. See what it grows into, and keep going down that path that you started on. If you plant a tomato, right, you can't suddenly halfway through go, no, man, I should have planted potatoes, and start planting potatoes where you had tomatoes in the first place. This doesn't make any sense. But, you can't change once it's in the ground, right? A tomato is going to grow into a tomato. And so let it grow into the tomato that you planted it to be. Don't try and suddenly treat it like it's the wrong thing, or that if you suddenly give it more or less water, that it's going to transform into something different. It's a tomato seed. Let it grow into a tomato, right? That's where you're going to find your success. Following through and making the choice that you made. Because you made the choice here, or you're making the choice here in the future, but you already kind of made it in the past. You chose to grow tomatoes, and these tomatoes, like you grew fucking great ones. You grew awesome. You're a really good tomato grower. So now what are you going to do? What you set out to do with those tomatoes. Make a sauce or whatever the fuck. I don't know. Right? Bear with me on the analogy here. But if you were like, I want to have my own tomatoes so that I can make my own pasta sauce, cool, do that. Stick to that. Make that choice. And if people are like, oh, this would make excellent pico de gallo or whatever, be like, nah, dude, that's not what it's for. Maybe the next round of tomatoes will be pico, but this is for my pasta. And people will go, oh, shit, that was the right call, right? this sauce fucks. Like, it's so good. I don't know, man. Maybe I'm just hungry. But, follow through. Follow through on this idea. Follow through this path that you've been walking this whole time. See it to its end. And that's where you're going to find this good fortune. You're going to find that success, right? Stick to your vision. Ignore the pressure being put on you to change, to switch, to whatever it is, right? To make it something that it's not. None of that matters. The tomato is a tomato. No amount of pressure is going to turn it into something else. And no amount of your own fucking with it is going to make it not a tomato. It might be a shittier tomato than it was because you fucked around with it, but it's still a tomato. So in the end, you, in a synopsis, you started down this path for a reason. That reason is building your confidence and making you feel more assured, more confident, more capable. And because of that, because of the success that you're seeing now, other people are going to try and alter it. Other people are going to try and mess with it. Other people are going to try and tell you you can make it better, or it needs more time, or whatever. Ignore that. Stay on the path. Do the thing you set out to do, and watch the fruits of your effort come back to you. That's my reading. If you have a different one, let me know in the comments. I really like hearing other people's interpretation of the cards. But yeah, that's all for today. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.